Hi, I'm Adam from NWslackline, and welcome to our 5-part series on longlining. Part 1 deals with the anchor slings that we actually use to attach the longline to the tree or whatever object we're anchoring to, hopefully something very sturdy. For now, we're going to leave the rigging behind and head down to the static end of this longline rig so you can actually see what we would be attaching with. I know it's not longline right now, but it is all longline gear. I just didn't want to have to walk very far. So you might recognize this. It looks a lot like a homemade sling, because it is. These are great for short lines, but you don't want to be using them anymore for long lining. They're just not strong enough. It's not that they're exactly unsafe to use, but they're not as strong as I want them to be. My basic theory of long lining is that as we move outward from the center of the line, the gear should get stronger and stronger and stronger. That way, if anything ever breaks, it breaks in the middle and it's only line flying through the air. If the anchor sling at the end was to break, potentially you could have metal flying through the air and that could hit someone in the head and, really hurt them. So it's not that these couldn't be safe, but they're just not safe enough for me. So let's get rid of the homemade anchor slings and let's start using what industrial riggers call polyester round slings. These are super duper strong. They're color-coded, and they're an endless loop, as you can see. An important question that I get a lot from people is, when you're going to buy one of these, how do you know how long it is? So if you buy a 6-foot round sling, which is what this is, that means from one end to the other is 6 feet. So I'm a little over 6 feet tall, and you can see this is one arm span. So there's actually 12 feet of material in the loop, but it's a 6-foot sling. They're color-coded by strength, and most people prefer to use purple, although some people use green. I use both. The purples are a little thinner and so they're slightly more convenient. If we look at the sling off to my side here, you'll see this tag on it that has the working loads and their strength ratings. This is the working load limit, which is not the break strength. That is to say, in America, typically the break strength is 6 times whatever the working load is. That gives you a very large margin of safety in case there's some wear to the sling or something else you haven't accounted for. And you can see at minimum, this green sling is 4,200 pound working limit, which means that it's 6 times that for strength. There are 3 different ways to rig the sling, and there are 2 that we're actually concerned with: the choker and the basket. In short, we're never going to do the choker. We're only going to do the basket. It's stronger and it's safer. So if you look at the sling now, you'll see it's rigged in a basket configuration, which is to say it's wrapped completely around the tree and connected to itself. This makes it twice as strong as if we were just pulling it from end to end. The only problem with the basket configuration is that instead of pulling directly in line with the tree, there are vector forces that are angular. And so as a result, those forces are actually greater on the tree and on the sling and on your hardware. So you have to account for that angle, and the greater the angle is, the more you're going to have an issue with the tri-loading vector forces. That's one reason we want to use a really good safety margin when we're rigging with these sort of slings and with these sort of forces, so that we don't have any risk of miscalculating something. When we move to part 2 of the series, we'll talk about how to account for the tri-loading and those vector forces. The next thing to talk about is tree padding. Tree padding is really important because it protects your gear, it protects the trees, and in doing that, it protects our reputation. So it's super important to use some sort of tree padding. This is a towel tube from toweltubes.com. They're 4 feet long. The sling goes inside them. They fit the homemade sling I showed earlier, plus span sets of both green and purple type. And they're really good. How do I know? Because I designed and make them. So go to toweltubes.com, just pause the video right now, go there, buy some, and then come back to the video and we'll finish up with the last topic. So the tree I'm standing next to now is 20 inches in diameter, and this is a 6-foot purple round sling. So as you can see, a 6-foot sling is good for a tree about 20 inches wide. In my experience, 8-foot slings are good for trees up to about 28 inches wide, and a 4-foot sling perfectly wraps a tree that's about 12, maybe 13-inch wide, which is the first tree we started on that had that green sling around it. So if you're wondering what size sling should you buy, generally in my bag I have 2 8-foot slings, and if I'm going somewhere where I don't know how big the trees are going to be, I'll also bring a steel carabiner and a 4-foot sling. That way, if I have to use a really big tree for one end, I can make a 12-foot sling using the beaner and the extra. So that about wraps up part 1 of our longline series. I'll see you in video number 2.